The transport ship landed on Zentari Prime with a soft hum. Hana Kim stepped off the ramp and looked at the famous Galactic Military Academy. The buildings were tall and shiny. Everything looked perfect and clean. The air smelled like flowers and fresh water. Other cadets walked around the academy grounds. Some were huge warriors from Corva with thick armor covering their bodies. Others were tall and thin, Zelithians, with crystal skin that sparkled in the sunlight. A few Morphin students floated by, using their natural anti-gravity abilities. Hana was much smaller than everyone else. She carried a simple bag and wore the basic academy uniform. The other students looked at her with curious eyes. Some whispered to each other when they thought she could not hear them. "That is the human," said a Corvan cadet to his friend. "They come from the Deathworld, called Earth." "She looks so weak," replied a Zilithian girl. "How did she even pass the entry tests?" Hana pretended not to hear them. She had heard the same things during her whole journey to the academy. Earth was known across the galaxy as a dangerous world. Most aliens thought humans were either very brave or very stupid to live there. They never understood how humans could survive on such a harsh planet. The academy was the best military training school in the galaxy. Only the strongest and smartest students from each species could attend. Hana was the first human to ever be accepted as an exchange student. The Galactic Alliance wanted to learn more about Earth's military methods. She found her way to the main building where orientation was starting. The room was huge and filled with cadets from 20 different species. A tall alien, with blue skin and 4 arms, stood at the front. This was Commander Rix Hall, the Academy Director. "Welcome, new cadets," Commander Rix Hall began. "You are here because you represent the best of your worlds. This academy will test your limits and make you into the finest military officers in the galaxy." Hana listened carefully. She noticed that the commander's voice became serious when he talked about discipline and training methods. "Our training is hard but fair," the commander continued. "We use advanced discipline systems to build character and strength. These methods have worked for over 300 years. They will help you overcome fear and weakness." After orientation, Hana was given a tour of the facilities. The guide was a friendly Vexian student named Zara, who had been at the academy for 2 years. "The training here is really tough," Zara explained as they walked through the corridors. "The instructors use special chambers for discipline. They simulate different environments to test how well you handle stress and pain." "What kind of environments?" Hana asked. "High heat, strong gravity, thin air. Things like that," Zara said. "Most students find it very challenging. I heard that even the strongest Corvan warriors sometimes break down in the chambers." They stopped in front of a large metal door marked Discipline Center. Through the window, Hana could see a white room with several machines and monitors. "Instructor Vexthalan runs this place," Zara whispered. "He is tough but fair. His species comes from a world with very gentle conditions. But he knows exactly how much pressure each species can handle. No one has ever laughed during one of his sessions." Hana nodded and made a mental note. She had read about different alien species during her trip to the academy. Most of them came from worlds that humans would consider paradise. Perfect weather, no dangerous animals, gentle gravity, and clean air. That evening, Hana sat in the dining hall, eating her meal. The food was strange but tasty. It was designed to be safe for all different species to eat. Around her, other cadets talked about their homeworlds and their training so far. A group of Corvan students sat at the next table. They were discussing combat techniques and strength training. One of them looked over at Hana. "Corvan, human," he called out. "Is it true that your world has creatures that hunt your people for food?" "Sometimes," Hana replied simply. "Bears, wolves, big cats. But they usually avoid humans if we leave them alone." The Corvans looked shocked. Their homeworld had no predators at all. The strongest animals there were were like Earth rabbits. "How do you sleep at night knowing such creatures exist?" asked another Corvan. "You learn to be careful," Hana said with a small smile. "And you learn to fight back if you need to." The alien students exchanged worried looks. They could not understand how anyone could live with such constant danger. Later that night, Hana lay in her small room looking out the window at Centauri Prime's 3 moons. The planet was beautiful and peaceful. No storms, no dangerous weather, no predators. It was like living in a safe bubble. She thought about home. Earth's single moon was smaller but somehow more comforting. She missed the sound of rain on her window and the feeling of wind that actually had some strength to it. Here, even the strongest breezes felt like gentle whispers. Her door chimed softly. A message appeared on her wall screen. It was her class schedule for the next day. First period was Basic Combat Theory, followed by Alien Psychology and Survival Techniques. The last class was Discipline and Mental Fortitude, with Instructor Vex Thalen. Hana smiled as she read the schedule. Tomorrow would be interesting. She had a feeling that the Academy's idea of discipline might be different from what she was used to. Growing up on Earth had taught her things that most aliens could never imagine. She closed her eyes and went to sleep, dreaming of the challenges that waited for her at this strange and wonderful school. Outside her window, Centauri Prime continued its peaceful rotation under the light of 3 gentle moons, unaware that everything was about to change. The next morning came quickly. Hana woke up early and went for a run around the academy grounds. The other students were still sleeping. She enjoyed the quiet time before the day started. Her first 3 classes went well. The instructors were surprised by how quickly she understood the lessons. Combat theory was basic compared to what she had learned in Earth's military training. Alien psychology was interesting but simple. Most species were much more peaceful than humans. After lunch, it was time for her last class. Hana walked into the Discipline Center and saw Instructor Vex Thalen for the first time. He was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. His body was clear blue and sparkled when he moved. His eyes glowed with a soft white light. 20 other cadets sat in chairs around the room. They all looked nervous. Some were whispering to each other. Others stared at the discipline chamber in the center of the room. "Welcome to Mental Fortitude class," Instructor Vex Thalen said. His voice sounded like musical chimes. "Today, we will learn about handling stress and pain. This is important for all military officers." Hana found an empty chair and sat down. She noticed that she was the only human in the class. The other students kept looking at her with curious eyes. "The discipline chamber can create many different environments," the instructor continued. "Heat, cold, gravity, pressure, toxic gases. It helps you learn to think clearly when conditions are difficult." He pointed to a large screen that showed different settings and controls. Each species has different limits. The chamber is programmed to never cause permanent damage, but it will push you to your breaking point. A Zilithian student raised her hand. "Instructor, what happens if we cannot handle the test?" "That is normal," Vex Thalen replied. "Most students need several attempts to pass. The important thing is to keep trying and learn from each experience." The class continued with lectures about mental strength and fear management. Hana listened carefully, but found most of it very basic. Earth's military training covered the same topics in much more detail. Near the end of class, Instructor Vex Thalen looked at his schedule. "Student Hana Kim, you are scheduled for your first discipline session tomorrow. Please arrive 15 minutes early." "Yes, sir," Hana replied. The next day, Hana arrived at the discipline center early as requested. Other students were already waiting outside. Word had spread that the human was going to be tested. Everyone wanted to watch. Instructor Vex Thalen looked at Hana with interest. He had studied her file the night before. Humans were new to the academy, and he wanted to understand their capabilities better. "Before we begin," he said, "I want you to know that this test is designed to be challenging. Do not be embarrassed if you need to ask for it to stop. Most students do on their first attempt. I understand, Hana said. She walked into the white chamber, and the door closed behind her. Through the thick windows, the other students watched with worried faces. Some had tears in their eyes, remembering their own first experiences. Beginning test sequence, Vexthalon announced. Setting temperature to maximum safe level for human physiology. The chamber began to heat up. Red lights glowed from the walls. The temperature quickly reached levels that would be painful for most species. The watching students expected to hear crying or screaming. Instead, they heard something strange. This is nice, her voice came through the speakers. Feels like summer back home. Instructor Vexthalon checked his controls. The temperature was definitely at the right level. He increased the gravity setting. Gravity increasing to 3 times standard, he announced. Most species would be crushed to the ground at this level. But Hana just adjusted her stance and continued smiling. She started doing jumping jacks, as if nothing had changed. Earth's gravity is already 3 times what you call standard, she called out cheerfully. This feels normal to me. The watching students looked at each other in shock. A Corvan warrior in the front row started backing away from the window. Vexthalon's crystal body began to dim with confusion. He activated the atmospheric controls. The chamber filled with gases that would be toxic to most life forms. Toxic atmosphere activated, he said, his voice showing stress for the first time. Hana took a deep breath and held it. Then she started doing push-ups while holding her breath. After 2 minutes, she exhaled and took another deep breath. Earth's atmosphere has oxygen levels that would poison most aliens, she explained while continuing her exercises. We are used to toxic air. The instructor's hands shook as he checked the control panel again. Everything was working correctly. The chamber was operating at levels that should be impossible for any cadet to handle. Maybe try the sensory deprivation setting? Hana suggested helpfully. Or electrical stimulation. I am curious what you consider challenging here. Instructor Vexthalon realized he was making a terrible mistake. He was pushing the chamber beyond safe limits in his confusion. But the human showed no signs of distress at all. Student Kim, he said, his voice cracking like breaking crystal. Please describe your normal daily routine on Earth. Well, Hana said, still doing exercises in the chamber, I usually wake up and run 10 kilometers through the mountains. Sometimes, I have to hide from bears or mountain lions. Then I do strength training by lifting heavy rocks. In the afternoon, I practice combat skills. We use real weapons, and sometimes people get hurt. For fun, I like to swim in the ocean during storm season. She paused and looked directly at the camera. Why do you ask? This chamber feels like a very gentle version of a regular Tuesday morning back home. The watching students were completely silent. Several had fainted. Others were staring at Hana like she was a dangerous predator that might break out of the chamber at any moment. Instructor Vexthalon slowly turned off all the chamber's systems. The door opened, and Hana walked out, looking perfectly comfortable. She was not even sweating. That was interesting, she said politely. Is there a more advanced setting we could try next time? The crystal instructor made a sound like wind chimes falling downstairs. He had never met a student who asked for more difficulty after their first session. His worldview was cracking, like his crystalline body, under stress. Class dismissed, he whispered. As the students filed out, they whispered about what they had witnessed. The human had laughed during maximum discipline. She had treated their most feared instructor's punishment as a pleasant warm-up exercise. Hana gathered her things and headed to her next class, unaware that she had just changed everything at the academy. Behind her, Instructor Vexthalon stood alone in the discipline center, staring at his controls and wondering what kind of world could create such impossible beings. News of what happened in the discipline chamber spread through the academy like wildfire. By dinner time, every student and instructor had heard about the human who laughed during maximum punishment. Some thought it was just a story. Others demanded to see the security recordings. Instructor Vexthalon spent the evening in his office, checking and rechecking the chamber's systems. Everything was working perfectly. The readings showed that the conditions inside had been extreme enough to challenge even the strongest Corvan warriors. Yet the human had treated it like a pleasant exercise. The next morning, Commander Rixhall called an emergency meeting. The Academy's medical team, research staff, and senior instructors gathered in the main conference room. Vexthalon played the recordings from Hana's session. The room fell silent as they watched the small human doing push-ups in conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Dr. Mira Ven, the head medical officer, leaned forward in her chair. "This cannot be accurate," she said. "No known species can handle those environmental conditions and remain conscious, let alone exercise." "I checked the equipment 3 times," Vexthalon replied. Everything was functioning correctly. Commander Rixhall turned to the research team. "I want a complete analysis of human physiology. Find out how this is possible." Dr. Mira Ven immediately called Hana to the medical center. The human arrived cheerfully, thinking it was just a routine health check. The medical team ran every test they could think of. "Your bone density is impossible, doctor," Mira Ven muttered, looking at the scan results. "These readings suggest your bones are 3 times stronger than the hardest materials we use in our spacecraft. Is that unusual?" Hana asked. "Unusual? These numbers would be impossible for any known life form. Your muscle fibers show the same pattern. And your pain tolerance levels. Our instruments cannot even measure them properly." While the medical team studied Hana, the research staff began investigating Earth itself. What they found made them question everything they thought they knew about habitable worlds. Professor Kel Dux, the Academy's chief researcher, pulled up Earth's environmental data on the main screen. His tentacles writhed with nervous energy as he read the information. "Earth's gravity is 2.8 times galactic standard," he announced to the assembled staff. "The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is toxic to most species in the Alliance. The planet experiences regular catastrophic weather events, called hurricanes and tornadoes." He switched to another screen, showing Earth's geological data. The planet's surface is unstable. It experiences earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and massive floods on a regular basis. The magnetic field fluctuates, allowing dangerous radiation to reach the surface. Commander Rixhall's forearms crossed nervously. "What about the native life forms?" Professor Keldux's skin changed to a pale green color, which meant extreme stress in his species. "The planet is populated by predators," he said quietly. "Large carnivorous mammals that hunt in coordinated groups. Massive reptiles with bite forces that could crush our strongest armor. Flying creatures that attack from above. Marine predators larger than our transport ships." The room was completely silent. Several instructors looked sick. "How do humans survive on such a world?" asked Dr. Mira Ven. "According to their history files, they do not just survive," Professor Keldux replied. "They are the dominant species. They have conquered every environment on the planet, from frozen polar regions to burning deserts to the deepest oceans." He switched to a display showing human military history. Their species has been in constant warfare for over 10,000 years. They fight each other using weapons that could destroy entire cities. They have survived multiple extinction events that would have wiped out any other known civilization. Instructor Vexthalon spoke up from the back of the room. "Yesterday, student Kim mentioned that she runs through mountains where large predators live. She said this was her normal morning routine. She also mentioned swimming in storm seasons," added another instructor who had reviewed the recordings. "For entertainment." Commander Rixhall stood up slowly. His blue skin had turned almost white with shock. "We have been treating a human as if she were a normal cadet from a civilized world," he said. "But Earth is not a civilized world." The research team continued their investigation over the next few days. Everything they learned made Earth seem more impossible. They discovered that humans regularly engaged in activities that would be considered torture by galactic standards. They have something called extreme sports, Professor Keldux reported. Humans voluntarily jump from high places with minimal safety equipment. They climb vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet. They run long distances in extreme heat for fun. Their military training is even worse, added Dr. Miraven after reviewing more files. They practice combat, using real weapons. Students regularly receive injuries that would be fatal to most species. They consider this normal education. Meanwhile, word of the investigation spread among the cadets. The other students began looking at Hana differently. What they had seen as weakness was actually terrifying strength. She was not a small, fragile being from a peaceful world. She was a predator from a planet that ate other predators for breakfast. During meals, conversations stopped when Hana sat down. When she smiled and tried to be friendly, they saw the teeth of a creature that had evolved to hunt and kill. Zara, the Vexian student who had given Hana the tour, finally worked up the courage to ask her about Earth. "Is it true that your planet tries to kill you every day?" she asked nervously. "Not every day," Hana replied, with a laugh that now sounded terrifying to Zara's ears. "Sometimes, the weather is nice, and the animals leave you alone. But you always have to be ready for trouble. How do you sleep at night knowing you could be attacked?" "You learn to sleep lightly," Hana said. "And you always keep weapons nearby. But honestly, most of the dangerous stuff avoids humans now. We have been the top predator for a long time." Zara excused herself and left the table quickly. That evening, she requested a room transfer to a different dormitory building. Back in the research center, the investigation team was reaching a disturbing conclusion. They had found the answer to how humans could survive impossible conditions. Earth had not created a normal, intelligent species. It had created the ultimate survivors. Every human is essentially a living weapon, Professor Keldux summarized in his report. Their entire biology is designed for warfare and survival in the most extreme conditions possible. Commander Rix Hall read the report with growing horror. The Galactic Alliance had invited these creatures to join their peaceful civilization. They had assumed humans were just another civilized species looking for friendship and cooperation. But what if they were wrong? What if Earth had sent its warriors to learn about alien weaknesses? What if this was the beginning of an invasion? For the first time in the Academy's 300-year history, the staff began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Hana noticed that something had changed at the Academy. Other students avoided her in the hallways. When she sat down for meals, nearby tables emptied quickly. Even the instructors seemed nervous around her. She did not understand what was wrong. She had tried to be friendly and helpful since arriving, but now everyone looked at her like she was dangerous. The change became clear during her next combat class. The instructor, a veteran Corvan warrior named Brockthor, had always been confident and strong. But when he demonstrated fighting techniques with Hana, his hands shook. "Student Kim," he said carefully, "please show the class how humans handle close combat." Hana stepped forward and performed a basic self-defense move. It was nothing special by Earth standards, just a simple way to throw someone who grabbed you. But when she demonstrated it on the practice dummy, the heavy metal figure flew across the room and crashed into the wall. The other students gasped and backed away. Hana looked confused. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. "That was just a basic throw. We learn it in elementary school." Instructor Brockthor stared at the dented practice dummy. It was made from the strongest materials available and designed to handle attacks from the most powerful species in the galaxy. A human child could apparently destroy it with a basic technique. "Perhaps we should move on to theory," he said weakly. After class, Hana decided to confront the problem directly. She found Zara in the library and sat down next to her. The Vexian girl immediately tensed up. Zara, Hana said gently. Did I do something to upset you? Everyone has been acting strange around me. Zara looked around nervously, as if checking for escape routes. We know about Earth now, she whispered. The research team told everyone. Your planet is a death world. You are a predator species. Hana blinked in surprise. Is that bad? Bad? Zara's voice rose. Your world has creatures that eat intelligent beings. You swim with monsters that could swallow our transport ships. You consider warfare to be normal entertainment. Oh, Hana said, finally understanding. You are afraid of me. She sat back in her chair and thought about this. On Earth, humans knew they were dangerous. But they also knew how to control that danger. They protected weaker creatures and helped each other. Apparently, the aliens did not understand this part. Zara, she said softly, may I tell you about my little sister? The Vexian girl nodded nervously. Her name is Minji. She is 12 years old. She has a pet rabbit named Snowball. When Snowball got sick last year, Minji cried for days. She spent all her money on medicine to make Snowball better. Hana smiled as she remembered. Minji is training to be a doctor. She wants to help sick animals. She is one of the gentlest people I know. She is also human, which means she could probably lift this entire table over her head if she needed to. Zara listened carefully. Being strong does not make someone evil? Hana continued. On Earth, we learn that strength should be used to protect others, not hurt them. Yes, we are dangerous. But we choose not to be dangerous to our friends. Over the next few days, Hana made an effort to show her classmates that she was not a threat. When a Zilithian student dropped her books, Hana helped pick them up. When a Morphin cadet got stuck in a doorway, she carefully freed him without using too much force. Slowly, some of the fear began to fade. Students started asking her questions about Earth instead of running away. Is it true that your oceans have creatures with tentacles longer than our buildings? Asked a curious Aquarian student. Giant squids? Yes, but they live very deep underwater. Most humans never see them. Hana replied. What about the predators that hunt in packs? Wolves? They mostly avoid humans now. But they are beautiful animals. Very intelligent and loyal to their families. The questions continued. Instead of seeing Earth as a nightmare world, some students began to find it fascinating. They could not imagine being brave enough to live there. But they respected the humans who did. Instructor Vexthalon also began to change his opinion. He requested a private meeting with Hana in his office. Student Kim, he said, his crystal body glowing with embarrassment. I owe you an apology. When you laughed during the discipline session, I thought you were mocking our training methods. I was not mocking anything, Hana replied. I was genuinely happy. It felt good to exercise in a controlled environment, where I knew I was safe. This confused the instructor even more. Safe? The chamber was operating at lethal levels. For most species, yes. Hana agreed. But for humans, those conditions were just mildly challenging. I was laughing because I was having fun. Vexthalon realized he had completely misunderstood the situation. The human had not been showing disrespect. She had been enjoying herself. I would like to ask you something, he said. Our discipline methods clearly do not work on humans. Could you help us design better training for your species? Hana thought about this. What are you trying to teach? Mental strength, the ability to think clearly under stress and pain. On Earth, we usually start with smaller challenges and build up gradually, she suggested. Maybe begin with conditions that are actually difficult for humans. Then increase slowly. What would be difficult for humans? Hana considered this carefully. Isolation from other people is hard for most humans. We are social creatures. Also, being unable to help others in need causes us significant stress. The instructor made notes about these suggestions. This was completely different from how other species learned mental strength. Word spread that Hana was helping to redesign the Academy's training programs. Some students began to approach her with questions about survival techniques and mental toughness. "How do you stay calm when something is trying to hurt you?" asked a nervous Corvan cadet. "Practice," Hana replied. "And remember that panic makes everything worse. If you stay calm, you can think of solutions." She began teaching informal lessons about Earth survival methods. These were much gentler than actual human training, but still effective for alien species. "The first rule of survival is to never give up," she explained to a small group of students. "Even when things seem impossible, there is usually something you can do to improve your situation." The students practiced basic techniques like controlled breathing, pain management, and staying focused under pressure. They were amazed by how much these simple methods helped them. Commander Rix Hall watched these developments with interest. Instead of the dangerous predator they had feared, Hana was becoming a valuable teacher. She was sharing knowledge that could help save lives in emergency situations. More importantly, she was showing them that strength and kindness could exist together. Humans might be deadly warriors, but they were also protectors and healers. The Academy staff began to realize they had learned something important. Power without wisdom was dangerous, but wisdom without power was helpless. Humans seemed to understand both sides of this balance. Perhaps the Galactic Alliance could learn from Earth after all. 6 months passed at the Galactic Military Academy. The fear and confusion surrounding Hana had transformed into respect and friendship. Students who once avoided her now sought her advice on survival training and mental toughness. The Academy had changed too. New training programs based on human methods were helping cadets from all species handle stress better. The discipline chambers were redesigned to provide appropriate challenges for different types of beings. Instructor Vex Thalon had become one of Hana's strongest supporters. His teaching methods now included lessons about different types of strength and the importance of understanding other species before judging them. "Class," he announced during one of his sessions, "6 months ago, I made a serious error. I assumed that student Kim's reaction to our discipline chamber meant she was disrespectful. I now understand that I was applying the wrong standards." The students listened carefully. Many of them had been there during Hana's first session. "Each species has evolved differently," Vex Thalon continued. "What seems impossible to one might be routine to another. The key is to understand these differences and learn from them." A young Zilithian cadet raised her hand. "Instructor, what have you learned from working with humans?" Vex Thalon's crystal body glowed with thought. "I have learned that strength comes in many forms. Physical power, mental toughness, emotional stability, and wisdom all matter. Humans seem to possess unusual amounts of all four." He looked over at Hana, who was taking notes like any other student. "I have also learned that the strongest individuals often choose to be gentle with others. Student Kim could easily overpower anyone in this room, but she uses her abilities to help and protect instead." As graduation approached, the Academy staff prepared for the final ceremonies. This year was special because it marked the successful completion of the first human exchange program. Commander Rix Hall stood before the assembled cadets and their families. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to watch their children graduate. "This has been a year of learning for all of us," the commander began. "We have discovered that our understanding of strength and survival was incomplete. Thanks to our human exchange student, we now know that true power comes not just from ability, but from the wisdom to use that ability correctly." He turned to Hana, who stood with the other graduating cadets. "Cadet Kim, you have exceeded every expectation. Your academic performance has been excellent, but more importantly, you have taught us all valuable lessons about cooperation and understanding between different species." Hana stepped forward to receive her graduation honors. She had earned the highest marks in survival training, tactical thinking, and leadership skills. But the award that meant the most to her was the Outstanding Mentor recognition from her fellow cadets. After the ceremony, families and friends gathered for celebrations. Hana's parents had traveled from Earth to attend. They were amazed by how many alien friends their daughter had made. "Everyone speaks so highly of you," her mother said proudly. "I just tried to be helpful," Hana replied. "It turns out that most problems between species come from misunderstanding, not real conflicts." Her father, a veteran of Earth's military, looked around at the diverse crowd of aliens. "You have done something important here," he told her. "You have shown them that humans can be trusted partners, not just feared warriors." Commander Rixhall approached the family with a special request. "Student Kim," he said formally, "the Galactic Alliance has asked me to offer you a position as a liaison officer. Your job would be to help integrate human military methods with our existing systems." Hana was surprised. "What would that involve?" "You would travel to different worlds, teaching survival techniques and helping design training programs. You would also advise Alliance military leaders about human capabilities and how best to work with Earth forces." "It would be an important job," her father said encouragingly. "Earth needs people who can bridge the gap between us and the galaxy." Hana thought about the offer. 6 months ago, she had arrived as a curious exchange student. Now, she was being asked to help shape the future of human-alien cooperation. "I accept," she said. The announcement was made at the graduation dinner. Many of the cadets cheered when they heard that Hana would be staying in the galaxy to continue her work. Zara, who had become one of Hana's closest friends, was particularly excited. "This means we might work together again someday," she said happily. "I am planning to join the Alliance Diplomatic Corps." "That would be wonderful," Hana replied. "We could help prevent the kind of misunderstandings that happened when I first arrived." As the evening continued, Instructor Vex Thalin pulled Hana aside for a private conversation. "I want to thank you," he said quietly. "Before you came here, I thought I understood strength and discipline. I was wrong. About many things. We were all learning," Hana replied. "I was wrong about some things too. I thought everyone would understand that humans are peaceful and less threatened. I did not realize how frightening our abilities might seem to others. You have changed how we think about power and responsibility," the instructor continued. "Many of my colleagues are now studying human philosophy about protecting the weak and using strength wisely. Those ideas are not uniquely human," Hana said. "Every good person learns them eventually. Humans just learned them while living in a dangerous environment." 6 months later, news arrived that would validate everything Hana had taught them. A hostile alien fleet had attacked the outer colonies, using weapons and tactics that the Galactic Alliance could not counter. The Alliance military was struggling until human reinforcements arrived. Earth's forces fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and protective fury that surprised everyone, including the attackers. But what impressed the galaxy most was what happened after the battle. Human soldiers immediately began helping wounded enemies and providing aid to damaged worlds. They showed the same protective instincts toward their former attackers that they showed toward their friends. Commander Rixhall received reports about the battle while reviewing applications for the next year's exchange program. Requests for human students had increased dramatically. He smiled as he read a message from Hana, who was now working on a distant world, teaching survival skills to Alliance soldiers. "The lessons you taught us saved lives today," he wrote back. "Not just the tactical knowledge, but the understanding that true strength comes from protecting others, not defeating them." That evening, Vex Thalan stood in his old discipline center, which had been converted into a cross-species training facility. New human cadets would arrive next month, along with students from dozens of other worlds. He remembered the day Hana had laughed in that chamber, and how that simple sound had changed everything. She had not been mocking their methods. She had been expressing joy at the chance to exercise safely while making new friends. The instructor's crystal body glowed with contentment as he prepared for another year of teaching. He would never forget the lesson that a small human girl had taught him about the difference between strength and wisdom, and how the greatest warriors were often the gentlest people. Outside the Academy windows, Centauri Prime's 3 moons shone peacefully over a galaxy that was learning to appreciate the complex nature of the species from the dangerous little world called Earth.